know, this is my second video of the morning, and I'm gonna say this. The reason why I'm happy that Donald Trump in, and not for the reasons you all think, it's because the white supremacists coming out in full force. Even though all of them, the white supremacists and the white nationalists, all of them are up for a rude awakening. They're up for a rude awakening because we've been trying to tell them that for years, shout out to SARS Willie P, that white supremacy was never used as a tool to give them authorized authority. It was just used as a buffer to keep checks and balances. The rich, wealthy elites actually don't give a fuck about white supremacy or none of that shit. They think about money. They think about classism. And far as they're concerned, you being a poor black person or a poor white person, you all are in the same boat. However, back then, those white folks had to keep checks and balances because they didn't want white people to uprise on them like like you had all these white uprisings in rural areas like in Kentucky, Tennessee, all these white people rising up against these elites and then fighting for certain rights. You know, they don't want shit like that. So what they had to do is find somebody to blame. So what happened is they found somebody to blame. They told Hollywood to come out with a movie. This movie was called Birth of a Nation. The movie came out basically after the end of World War I. You know, you had black soldiers who didn't have Social Security, they didn't get veterans' rights because they were black. But anyway, nevertheless, these black soldiers came back from the trench warfare, the dangerous, deadly trench warfare of World War I, and they came back with money in their pocket. So a lot of these black soldiers moved to thriving black communities like Tulsa, Oklahoma, Elaine, Arkansas, they moved to places like Slocum, Texas, Wilmington, North Carolina, East St. Louis, and they started their life. They got married and they started businesses, and from those businesses, those black people built thriving black communities. Which somehow white people act like these thriving black communities never existed. They just think. Some of these white folks that think that's now, this is why they need critical race theory taught, because if you don't, people will seem to think that these events never took place, and you already see how they're trying to erase history already. They're trying to create this one narrative for American history because it's all about American exceptionalism. That's what it's always been about. So you can't have American exceptionalism if you got the truth coming out about certain events that happened in American history. No, we can't have that. It's just like, for instance, I know a lot of Native Americans don't like this shit when Beyonce had a shirt of the Buffalo Soldiers, and she said that the Buffalo Soldiers, the Native Americans came out and protested against the Buffalo Soldiers because they were rounding up so-called renegade Indians. You know, like I said, white supremacy used other people to do their dirty work. It ain't no difference than them using General McGregor to go over there as the face of African because they don't want to have a white face on neo-colonialism or recolonizing Africa. So what better way to use a Negro is put his face on a picture of neo-colonialism in a black American at that. So that's the same thing with the Buffalo Soldiers. White people use the Buffalo Soldiers to go around up the Native Americans. Meanwhile, to do even more dirt, they told the Native Americans back, the 5 civilized tribes, to adopt slavery. And they did it, and they became very successfully rich. A lot of those Native American tribal leaders became successfully rich. Like it was one in Oklahoma that had damn near 900 slaves. And on top of that, he was a Union sympathizer until he lost everything. So you had Native Americans that had slavery. So when you, like I said, this is majority of why you got black Aboriginal people, not because they were already here. They know they a lot of them were slaves of native tribal leaders of the 5 civilized tribes. Now, to show you how fucked up that is, they sent the Buffalo Soldiers to go out the Plains Indians. The Plains Indians didn't have nothing to do with what the five civilized tribes was. So this is once again, white men creating divisions and shit. This is what they always have been good at. This is what they have been always good at. This is how they keep checks and balances, by keeping division. You did? That's why they had to have a Democratic Party and a liberal and a conservative party. Because to make people think that, they arguing over policy, this and that. Meanwhile, these people go in smoke-filled rooms and they basically talk about how they gonna chop shit up, pretty much like they did over there in Africa when they were chopping up, when the wealthy European elites was chopping up Africa for their own business. Like the Belgians got the Congo, the French got all the Francophone countries like Sierra Leone, Ghana, Senegal, Burkina Faso. They got control of Mali, Niger, Haiti in the Caribbean. They had a lot of Francophone countries, even in the Pacific. That's why you have people in places like French Indonesian. That's why them people up there got pictures of Ibrahim Traore up all the way in New Guinea and shit. Why you think they got pictures of Ibrahim Traore up? So I'm telling y'all, the white elites are the main culprit of keeping all of the division. But they've been using the middle class and poor white people as their weapon. And they have gone along with the program because a lot of them know that this is the real truth. What I'm saying, a lot of them know this is the truth. But however, like I said, these proletarian, poor white guys and lower middle class white guys think one day they're going to be up there with the elites on top of Mount Olympus throwing out lightning bolts like they're a Greek god. That's what it is. And I land my plane on that.